Hello guys. Welcome to the panel on Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 and 2. A video game that not just throws you into a sword fight or a political crisis, but really pulls you deep into the emotional heart of medieval Bohemia. We're very lucky today to be joined by two of our main protagonists who bring this world to life, not just with their motion capture and voice acting, but with really deep, emotional, layered performances. So give a big shout out, give a big applause to Tom McKay, who returns as Henry of Skalitz and is the main protagonist. And Luke Dale, who plays Lord Hans Capon. Yeah, we'll be diving into a lot of questions about acting in video games, about male friendship, about, I don't know, a lot of things. Just, I want to let you know that after we discuss our topics, there's a mic on the panel here, and in like 30 minutes you can approach the mic and ask some of the questions yourselves. So, really great to see you all here. And my first question is like a very natural one. Are you gamers yourselves? Do you play video games? And if you do play video games, would you have played Kingdom Come Deliverance if you weren't in it? Luke?
Yes, I do. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello. Yes, I do play video games in general. I play this game a lot. I'm streaming. Do you have anybody who watches the streams?
Woo!
Thank you so much. I appreciate you all so much for tuning in. But yeah, that's really been a cornerstone of the last few months for me. It's actually kind of changed my life. I can now treat it as a career, which is wonderful. And yeah, I would have played this game had I not been in it. It's an RPG. I've always been a fan of RPGs. My first experience of RPGs was probably RuneScape. Anyone played that?
Wow.
Slightly different, but no, I love it. And
Yeah, and how far the games have come from RuneScape, right?
Oh yeah. But this game is absolutely sensational, and it's a real privilege to play a game that I'm in that I also enjoy. I don't have to force that. I don't have to pretend I like it. I just like it, and that's like a gift. So yeah.
Amazing. And what was your first reaction when you saw yourself rendered fully in a game for the first time? Was that an uncanny experience? Is it like, did it feel like emotional or weird? What is it like?
Well, it was sort of different from between the two games because the technical execution was different. The first game was much more rudimentary. For those of you that have played it, you'll know. And so it was kind of a sliding scale of, I mean, I guess the biggest shock was the first time where you see your face and it's moving and being animated by these incredible, animators at Warhorse. And it's really weird. It's kind of unlike seeing yourself on TV or watching playback of a play that you're in or whatever it might be. It's really different because you're kind of when you're playing, you're inhabiting that character. And then for the second game, as many of you will know, the technical capability of the studio was through the roof. So what they were able to achieve was it's really genuinely cinematic. So it obviously looked like us in the first game, hugely, and that was impactful. But the second game is like so much more nuanced and subtle. So that was pretty mind-blowing. The first time we saw the gameplay for the second game, that completely blew me away. And then it is a weird thing, it's a weird thing to see yourself as a playable character in a video game. But often I think it's weirder for the fans when they meet me, especially if they didn't know that it was based on a real face. I think
exactly,
quite often, or real voices,
It must be weird for the fans, and they do say this. And like with TV and film actors, like you see their face and you're like, yeah, I've seen that guy, I know him. But with us, there's an extra cog, I think, that turns in your brains where you go, wait a minute. You're real? And that's definitely a bit odd.
and we're used to video game studios doing this hybrid of portraying video game characters and picking voice actors for them that are not the real for example, Last of Us, or even Red Dead Redemption, you know, all these games, but now actually seeing you in real life and having controlled you, having picked your choices, it kind of feels like, you know, you're a part of what I chose and you're a part of me.
We talked a bit yesterday about the sort of intimacy of that and how it's like, it's an experience like no other and a real privilege for us in a way because, like you say, it's really uncommon for characters to be based on your real face and for you to then voice it. But also because this world is so naturalistic and real, if we're doing our jobs correctly, that for the players and for us, that's a really, really unusual thing. So the intimacy between us and the fan base, I think, is also more intimate because of that. Like, we're blessed with the most incredible fan base, many of whom are here. We've spent time with you all this weekend, and it's been like such a privilege to do that. But I think that sort of heightened intimacy with this game is slightly born out of that you go, there's a real kind of human connection born out of the nature of the story. And luckily for us, that has kind of exploded into the real world, and now we get to sit and look at all these lovely faces that we've got to know over this weekend, and that's been a really unexpected privilege for me. I didn't really know that existed in any media, but having not worked a lot in gaming, that's been a real education for me.
Amazing. You've touched on realism, about how this game is, you know, it doesn't have dragons, it doesn't have orcs, it's not a non-fantasy, and you're both professional actors who have had successful careers before. You come into this game, you have to pretend you're in 15th century Bohemia. What methods do you, like, are the methods preparing for these characters similar to movie characters? Do you try something new? Do you try accents? Like, do you base these characters on something? Or do you just follow the director's lead? How is the character building happening behind the scenes?
Well, at a base level, it's exactly the same. You kind of go, you're given the outline of a story, and you look at the script and you kind of build it together. From a historical perspective, we talked a bit about this yesterday, that Warhorse rightly are kind of adamant that things are historically accurate. So they did a lot of the legwork for that and then helped us. But in terms of the characters, it's exactly the same as any other project. What's different is that if you're doing a TV show or a film or a play, you have a full script. Obviously in TV that changes a lot, but mostly in the other media it doesn't. And you know the whole story, so you know what people are going to get from start to finish, and you can build that character from the ground up. For gaming, that is, I don't know if this is true of other games, because I only know this game, but that wasn't the case. So we got, particularly for KCD2, they sat us down for like 2 days and talked us through the whole body of the story that many of you now know. But obviously, then through the sort of 5-year development and execution of that game, there were loads of changes and differences. So in that respect, you have a bit less to go on, and certainly for the first game, it was much less than that. We'd never met these characters, we'd never inhabited them. So that's different, but to be honest, that's where we're very blessed that it's Warhorse kind of holding our hands through that, because Dan especially, the creative director, but all of the team, they knew exactly what it was. So if we ever had any question, we'd just ask them and they would always have the answer. So they kind of made our jobs easy, didn't they, in that respect?
Well, one thing I want to say about what Tom's unique challenge is as well is you've got the unique challenge of being in a video game and the motion capture and all that stuff that we do. But on top of that, Tom is doing something that is even harder. You're acting as a sort of vessel for the player. And
thank you.
somehow managing to encompass all of those different emotions and places that Henry needs to go, and the amount of lines that Tom had to do as well. And I think that's so unique and something that not many actors have probably had to do. And I find it so interesting that you were able to create a character that people feel like they know and love and understand. But you can also manipulate Henry to be your Henry, and you can be a bit of a prick, or you can be a very virtuous, lovely person, and it's your choice. And I think that must have been quite tricky. Yeah,
that was. I mean, again, forgive me for those of you that were here yesterday, but that was the single biggest challenge and the biggest reward about this whole process, was particularly with KCD2, building the kind of many iterations of that character that you all then get to choose to be, and making sure that they were really kind of nuanced and defined and subtle, rather than just kind of sweeping brushstrokes of like, he's a bit angry here. Like making sure that if it was angry, what level of angry and why, and because the reasons for that change depending on the choices that you make. And so for that, yeah, that's been the biggest revelation and like genuinely the biggest joy, but also the biggest mountain to climb of this experience. And it was amazing. I feel really, really blessed because I've never got to do that in my acting life before, and who knows if I ever will again. So it's kind of, I'll never ever forget that experience. And then the extent to which that is holding hands with all of you, because it's you that makes those choices and goes down those avenues, and that was a real privilege. So thanks for taking me on that road, all of you.
I saw a photo of someone from Warhol Studios. I think it was the main writer, the script writer, who was holding like a 600-page like stack of script. In that stack of script, do you find I don't know, virtuous character traits that you'd associate with your real selves, or are these characters just, you know, something out of a fantasy because of the setting, because of the medieval setting of it? Do you find something modern in these characters that you know, would attribute to modern people?
I think we, as humans, like we don't change that much, do we? We want the same things throughout millennia, right? With Hans, he is. What I've really enjoyed about the second game with Hans is, from the first game, he is a little bit surface level. He's the comic relief. You have a great time with him. He's this bratty little shitty noble, and in the second game, we now get to understand why he is like he is, and we understand his weaknesses. And he starts to become a little bit more endearing. He still pisses you off, but you can then at some points forgive him because he shows a different side of him, and there's more depth there in the second game, which I very much enjoyed playing with. But in terms of like feeling close to that character, is there anything in me? Nah, there is. The sense of fun that he has is very much something that I have, right? That we are interlinked like that. But I wouldn't say, I'd like to believe that I'm not as bratty. And he is quite spoiled, and he's from quite obviously a privileged background, which I don't think I am either. So there's a bit of a jump there where you have to understand the psychology of what that does to someone if they've been born with a silver spoon and been given everything. But there's also challenges with that. Like he can't just do whatever he wants. He's got these responsibilities, and that kind of restricts his movement and affects the way he is. So I just love playing him because he's actually quite a complex character, you know. What
we do get as well in terms of like the real us is, you know, I feel like in many ways I'm incredibly similar to Henry, and I'm sort of pulling off real things from myself, and in other ways we're completely different. But what you do get over the benefit of that, over working for a long period like this, is the other relationships, and ours being the most extreme. I think in this respect that you go, as we got to know each other and have a laugh together, and the ease of that banter you completely get for free, which often on a TV show you might meet someone playing your mum on day one and you've just lost the dad, and you're trying to engineer these relationships and this kind of connection, which we, certainly for the second game, but even most of the first game, we never had to do that. So even if you're not similar to your character, and we are in some ways and not others, what you absolutely have is someone that you like spending time with and hanging out with and having a laugh with, and that makes it a lot easier, and that's very real. I mean,
and it's nearly 10 years since day one that we started working on it, which is absolutely insane.
And you don't get that in like TV and theatre. No. You'll never do a project for that long, so you don't get to kind of foster these like real world relationships. I mean, luckily for us, we do really get on, because it would be a lot harder if we didn't. But we just, that's like a free gift that the world has given us, and hopefully to you too, that is now filtered through these characters that's like effortless and fun. So,
and like in a way, you're talking about the relationship. In a way, it is a game like a buddy film, like a buddy comedy. You know, like Rush Hour, Jackie Chan and Chris Turner. What about your relationships? Like, do you feel like the game says something about male relationships? Hans learns to be more vulnerable. Henry, you know, is forgiving to someone who very often comes off as rude towards the other person. But it's about two men who need to kind of have this emotional change. Do you feel like the game says something about the male relationship.
Definitely. I think for the second game especially, it was still brilliant but more binary in the first game. In the second game, obviously you can have the romance. That's the most extreme example of it. But there's everything in between that you go. Definitely, it's to do with sexuality and all that stuff. But it's also to do with just levels of intimacy and it not being this kind of like just lads being together that can't emotionally connect, because that's kind of boring. Like we've seen that a million times, and we don't live in a world where that is wildly interesting to most people. So, you can have that if you want, and that's the great thing about this game, that if that is what you want, you can choose that. But then you have this massive spectrum of relationships with Hans particularly, but all the characters where it can be what you want it to be. And I think they've set out to be much more nuanced and complex on every level in this game, and they've succeeded, and particularly when it comes to relationships, and especially male relationships. And I think that's to salute Warhorse for that, because they didn't have to, and I think people have really responded to that. A much kind of broader spectrum of people in our fan base, which we love, and I hope that's one of the things that is invited and encouraged those people in.
Do you have any of your favorite buddy duos that you, I don't know, in film, video games, or any other media?
We were talking about this yesterday. I'm a bit of a child of the 80s, giving my age away, and there are some amazing buddy. I mean, it's sort of the decade of the buddy movie, isn't it? Let's face it. So you're probably all too young to know this film, but does anyone know The Goonies? That film? No, really not. A couple of you. Well, those of you, which is all of you by the sounds of it, that don't know it, go and watch it. It's like young buddies. They're all like Stand By Me, those films. That are kind of like young buddy movies. Those are my go-tos.
I'm struggling to think of like a buddy movie that I particularly love. I keep thinking of Step Brothers, but that's just I guess, yeah. I love that movie. That's so funny.
Did you find in this setting, 15th century, by the way, I was playing the game, which is set in 1407, I think. That's 3 years before the Battle of Grunwald, in which very famously, and we as Lithuanians like to pride ourselves on it, Lithuanians together with Polish defeated the Crusaders. In the codex in the game, the second game, there are characters, for example Jan Žižka, who participated in the Battle of Grunwald, and is like the Battle of Grunwald is in the codex. So for me, playing that game also gives me a sense of historical, political depth of that era. Did you find the historical setting of it, appealing to you? Did you find anything that you didn't know about? How do you guys feel about portraying historical settings and like specifics of it?
What's amazing about it is how grateful the Czech people particularly, I think anybody in Eastern Europe can appreciate this story and the fact that it's about your heritage. But the Czechs absolutely just love that their story has been told. And, if you think we're popular here, you should see us in Prague. I mean, they mob us. And it's wonderful to see. And, I've said it before, but I think that, Hollywood has a tendency to focus on the same stories over and over again because they know what sells. But there's actually a wealth of history and stories to be told in this part of the world and in Bohemia. And I think they've done it so well, and there's a reason that the game has sold so well, because that story is absolutely wonderful and it's full of, like, as you say, depth. So I'm really glad they're doing that. Yeah,
me too. And I think, to answer one of your questions, I didn't know a lot about this period of history, and Dan, who I mentioned earlier, and the whole team have a real pride in their national history and a real passion for it. And so they kind of took us through that, and we learned through the game. And what I think is really joyous now is that I think there's sort of three core tenets to our fan base, which is, I would say, kind of passion and positivity, humour for sure, and intelligence. And the third one has there's this real appetite for historical knowledge and this kind of bonus that within all the fun of the game, you get to learn loads. And because Warhorse have made sure that it's accurate, you have the benefit of that. And whenever I'm talking to the majority of the fans that come through, that's one of the things they really respond to. And you can absolutely feel your intelligence coming in the conversations we have. And that's just a real privilege. I don't know, but I'm assuming not all fan bases have those three core gorgeous elements. So props to all of you for that.
Humor and intelligence, great combo. By the way, I've read that like a week ago, a Czech mayor gifted the deluxe box set to the Prime Minister of Czechia. And this is like the second, it kind of follows the trend of giving a game, a box set to a world leader. The previous one was Witcher 2, given to Barack Obama. And Barack Obama was seen in a video like on the internet in his room. The box set, The Witcher 2 from Poland, is on like a shelf. Like they actually, Polish, Czech, you know, Eastern European, Central Europeans pride themselves on these things, and they can export it not only as a means of a video game, as a means of, you know, just a cash grab, but it's actually a way to explore their culture, their customs, their characters, their history. It's amazing.
When for Kingdom Come 1, they did a concert where they had a live orchestra play the music from the game, and up on the screen were the cutscenes. And I was sat on the 3rd row in the auditorium. There was thousands of people there. And the only people in front of me and the top team at Warhorse were the politicians of the Czech Republic who had come to watch this and was so like amazed by it all. And so it just shows you how grateful they are. It's great.
Luke, in your streams, you obviously played the second game, which builds on the first game. I'll be honest, previously I tried playing the first game. I turned it on. I was giving 5 mundane tasks to do. It wasn't the right time for me to play that kind of game. I switched off. KCD2 is much more accessible. How do you feel as a gamer? How do you feel it builds on the first one? What does it do better? What mechanics, like the realism mechanics, do you still like? And your overall experience playing the second one in relation to the first one?
Well, as you say, I think the first 15 to 20 minutes of any game are pretty crucial for the player. I don't know how many times you've sat down with a game and you're like, I just don't feel it. Like, I can't get into this. And you might push through because you've spent $50, but you're not really into it. And what this game does impeccably well, like more so than any other game I've ever played, I think, is that opening prologue. It's so cinematic. The story is set up so wonderfully so that you don't feel lost. You feel like you understand the characters immediately. There's drama, there's action, there's something to fight for. It's such a... I cried. I actually cried on stream, of course, because I was so moved. I was so moved by the throwback to your dad's story, you know, and I was just like, they've nailed this. And why wouldn't you want to keep playing after that prologue and find out more about these guys? And yeah, for me, that's where they excelled in the sequel. Because yeah, the first one is wonderful, but it is a slow burn, and it's not always easy. It's really
I think
tough.
what they did brilliantly as well, they really listen. I mean, this is probably true of many studios, but they really listen to their fan base and like read the comments and take the feedback. And so I think they knowingly kind of kept the things that they knew people liked. So, you know, the combat system being challenging, but not too challenging. Same with the lockpicking. And then conversely, in terms of what Luke was talking about, knowing that with the new game, there was going to be a whole body of fans who had never played KCD, but loads that had. And so I think through that prologue, what they do so brilliantly is do little reminders for those that have done it and informers for those that haven't, without it feeling like battering your head with information, and making sure that the story is still moving forward and it's dynamic and you're actually doing something. And that's the really difficult thing to execute, especially after a 5-year gap. But they did it so brilliantly.
And yeah, so one of those brilliant things is I've never seen this done before. Maybe I'm wrong, but like, you know, in the first game you built Henry to be this like war machine tank with all these skills and etc. And then something happens in the second game, in the prologue, which nullifies all that progress, which is also like a mark of being a great writer and putting the mechanic into writing.
Exactly that. So you know that you have to sort of go back to ground zero because otherwise there's no second game. But doing it in a way that feels like story first. And I think that's what they do so brilliantly. They write beautifully, they construct these incredible stories and these amazing characters that we're so privileged to play. And it kind of starts and ends with that. And it's, that's led by Dan at the top, of course, but all this army of brilliant people that he has that know him and they all understand each other and work so brilliantly together. And I think that's amongst their many talents, probably their single biggest talent is genius storytelling.
Exactly, and in all those side quests and the main quests, I probably played like 80 hours of the second game. I still haven't reached the end of it, and the expansion just dropped, and I haven't even had time to do that. Video game communities are really diverse, very inclusive. I think. It's a way to feel a part of community. It's a way to escape. It's a way to immerse. That's why, for example, my favorite genre is RPGs, because you immerse yourself into a world that is completely foreign, that's completely new, and you spend hours and hours and hours there. But also in those stories, you can tell a lot of human stories. Especially in this game, there are a couple of side quests that talk about racism, about sexism. Previously, some parts of this video game communities have been criticized, or video game makers have been criticized for going there for speaking about these topics. Do you feel like video games are a good medium to talk about topics that we actually care about, and what topics are misrepresented or underrepresented, maybe that you would like to see talked about more in video games?
I think the key difference that's really helpful in that respect, at least in the case of our game, is the elective nature of the narrative. So I think you're right about the kind of gorgeous diversity, and like probably most gaming communities, but especially ours. I absolutely love that there's this, like, I can literally see it sat here today, this kind of gorgeous spectrum of people and experience and background. And I think partly what brings that together, apart from that sense of community, is the fact that you get to choose. So if Warhorse, and particularly Warhorse, but Warhorse and us are doing our jobs properly, then there should be something for everyone in that. And I think there really is in this game. And then it's down to your decisions and what you would like to do, a bit like life, And so that kind of just that diversity of community, I suppose, it was a surprise to me. I didn't really know that existed, not having done games before. It's not the same as the TV and theatre work, which is the main body of my work. And it's really beautiful, and it's kind of expressed most beautifully in like cons, that you go, it's a room full of people that get to be themselves and dress how they want and be how they want and find people they didn't know yesterday. That's one of the most beautiful things that I've heard from so many of you, that you come up in pairs and be like, I didn't even know this one yesterday, but now and I absolutely love that. That's not something that I've seen before. So in terms of whether like politics should be discussed in gaming, yeah, probably, but it's up to you. And I think there's a game for everyone. You go, entertainment is incredibly important, and there's space for games that are just solely enjoyable, just like TV and film. And perhaps, yeah, maybe it is a good arena to have those conversations. But for me, as someone that is not quite so engaged digitally, I'm kind of only here for the positivity, which may sound a bit kind of Disney, but you go, I love the absolute tsunami of like love and positivity which has borne us through the last few months. I'm not so interested in the battles, if I'm honest.
Cool.
I second that.
Okay. So guys, video game awards are coming up. Probably like one of the front runners. Are you looking forward to that? Game of the Year. Game of the Year.
I hope.
We hope.
What's next for you guys? I mean, KCD2 kind of beautifully ended a story that's, as you said, was eight years in the making. What's next for you guys?
Well, I'm still working on the DLCs, so I'm back out in Prague in a couple of weeks to work on one of the DLCs. So that's kind of all of the work that I did on KCD2 is like peppered through those years. So you do a chunk of voiceover, you go away and do something else, you come back and do a bit more. And there's also a TV show which I've worked on before, which I'm currently working on. So it's kind of moving back towards my TV work. But to be honest, I really would like to stay within this arena because it's just opened my eyes and my heart and my mind to all of this stuff that is possible. So we'll see. We'll see what happens next on that front.
I've got to finish the game. I'm actually, as of tomorrow, I will be streaming full time. I actually quit my job.
No.
Yeah.
Are you yanking my pizzle?
I'm not yanking your pizzle for once. I quit my job. I maybe the dumbest thing I've ever done, or it could be the most amazing thing I've ever done. But I will be streaming most days, if not every weekday, as much as I can. And I've done that because I do just love it. And so that's going to be like a sort of new career for me. But on the side, I will audition and I'll hopefully one day get another acting job. But
You will. Probably this week.
We'll see. But yeah, who knows what the future holds.
Fortuna audentis.
Audentis fortuna juvat.
Yeah. Thank you guys. And can we open the panel up for questions? Oh, wow.
Great.
We'll try to
Thanks, guys.
make time for everyone.
God be with you, honorable sirs.
Jesus Christ be praised.
You both have played at least a bit, KCD 1 and 2. And how does it feel to play as yourself, or from Luke's point of view, to see yourself as your friend and companion?
Really fun. Yeah, it's really fun. It's funny because it's been such a long time now that I guess it feels less weird now because it's been, it's sort of part of the fabric of my life, and this role has been like the most significant thing I've done professionally. So the sort of weirdness of that, of like playing as myself, but also seeing myself represented in that respect, is probably a bit less weird than you think. But mostly, I just feel like this overwhelming sense of pride that, like, we're both at the front of this enormous machine that involves many, many more people than you see sat on this stage, but we get the privilege of being the sort of frontmen of it. And so mostly when I watch the game and I see all these elements that I didn't know existed, and the way the art is rendered and the music sounds and all these incredible elements from all these brilliantly talented individuals that you meet when you walk around the building, brought together in one place, I just feel really proud more than anything.
Yeah. One of the things that the fans of the game, when they're watching me play it, say is how does it feel like, and it's so, isn't the fact that you knew what was happening, like you shot this, like, what, are you pretending you don't know what's happening? And I'm like, no, because I shot it about 5 years ago. So I've completely forgot what happens here. I don't remember saying these lines. So that part of it is really fun because I get to re-find and discover stuff we did that I've completely forgotten about. And then it's been obviously created through the eyes of Warhorse, and they've taken what I've done and they've created something like so incredible with it. So it's surreal because it's me, but like I can't remember doing it. But yeah, no, it will never not be strange, but I absolutely adore every second of it.
That's so true as well, isn't it? Because you shoot it out of order as well.
Yeah.
So often like little element, and especially with the voiceover. So it's really true that you all remember it much better than we do. And there are elements that I don't remember at all, but actually the joy of that is that when we get back to it, playing it, it's genuinely revelatory rather than like, oh yeah, here we go, we know what happens here.
Yeah.
Well, hi. My question is, in Kingdom Come there are quite realistic fencing for video games. How long did you prepare for it, and did you prepare at all? Like swordplay, something.
Swordplay.
Well, the swordplay we chatted a bit about yesterday, where we both trained at drama schools in London, where they do, part of your training is combat. So we had done a certain amount, and you use that to the extent that you're able. But then when it gets complicated, for safety reasons and for ability reasons, they bring in stunt guys, so that's fine. But in terms of preparation, the first game, I don't remember, the preparation sort of happened on the job, actually. Like we definitely talked about the kind of core structure of the character and the world and all that sort of stuff. But we went into shooting the cutscenes quite quickly. So actually a lot of those, and again, as I said yesterday, in terms of historical questions, whenever they came up, they would come up in the performance capture studio and we would deal with them there and then. So there wasn't like hours and hours of sitting talking, except that on the first game, we would do a thing in the morning where all the actors would sit around a table with the director and discuss for about an hour the scenes that we were doing that day. So that would help. But on the second game, we didn't do that because I think they just realised, firstly, that the time was better spent on the floor doing that. But secondly, we all knew our characters so well by that point, so we kind of didn't need to. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello. Okay.
Hi.
Hello.
So, my question is, so we talked about inclusivity and also historical accuracies and just how Warhorse cared about that so much. But within the community, there were also people saying a homosexual relationship that can occur with choices you make was out of the blue. And some people said, oh, I played the first game, how did that even happen? The characters had no chemistry. And what did you guys think about that? When you guys read the script, when you guys saw that this was a possibility? So I just wanted to know.
I think it's in the eye of the beholder, really, isn't it? I mean, lots of people would disagree with that notion that there was no chemistry between them in the first game. I think the romance option in the second game, I've said this many times, was lobbied for by the fans, by a large degree, and they put it in. I think it was very, I think, just so smart and wonderful to explore that option. That obviously you don't have to, but you can. And I thought like the way it was handled and written was so just so interesting, because there's so many levels to what's going on in that scene, and the foreboding nature of it, and the risk and all that stuff. So no, I mean I didn't think it came out of the blue at all. And again, you know, it built the relationship between Henry and Hans builds through the second game, and you have to work to romance me. It is not easy. I'm not cheap. You have to make the right choices throughout the game, and eventually you get the payoff, which is me. But if you don't make those choices, and it doesn't even occur to you to romance me, then you won't be given the opportunity to, and quite bloody rightly.
I totally agree. I think, so when we had that chat that we talked about where we sat down for 2 days, aside from the new story and the character development, they talked about all of these elements, including the romance, that were going to be brought in. And in terms of how do we feel about it, I thought it was a bloody great idea. And I was like, let's explore these things, let's expand it, let's find different things that these characters can do and the people they can be. I don't consider it to be a deviation at all from like who they were originally at all. And I think it's really exciting. And I'm not just, I am talking about the romance, but I'm also talking about loads of other things that Henry can do and who he can be, even like the darker side where he can, you know, go for revenge through really foul means, which is not really who he was in the first game. And I think it extends to everything. And so, I mean, in terms of the online battle, I'm sort of less exposed to that because I don't kind of see so much of it, to be honest, but of course I'm aware it's there and that it's happening. But I think mostly, yes, there might be a small percentage of kind of negativity and toxicity that surrounds those conversations, but alongside that, there's a 98.5 sense of like joy and celebration and inclusivity, and in terms of that, absolutely yes, please, from me.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hi, so mine would be Asili. So not as your characters, but you as yourself. Who is your favorite characters from the Dry Devil pack? Not the Jan Žižko, because everyone loves Jan Žižko.
Well, I've said before, Catherine, even if it's not confined to the pack, I just think she's a really great character. And again, it kind of speaks to what we were just talking about in terms of within that sort of pretty kind of alpha male pack that you have this incredibly strong female character, you know, relatively similar in some ways to Teresa, but a new character most importantly. And I love the actress that plays her. I think she's brilliant. And there's just a kind of fire in her belly that I find really appealing, that I think is a very useful counterbalance to everything else that is going on in that pack. So that's...
Out of that group, yeah, I would agree. Catherine. Catherine's a great character. Love her.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I prepared to link to previous questions. Which romance is best or most well written?
Me.
Him.
I'm very excited to romance myself.
I expected that.
I've not got there yet, but I'm doing everything I can to do that.
So
yeah.
who would be best soulmate for Henry?
The best what, sorry?
Soulmate.
Soulmate.
Yeah.
For Henry, do you mean?
Yeah.
That's your decision. I think that's the sort of joyous thing about the game, is that you go, we don't have an answer. I don't even have a particularly strong opinion on that, if I'm honest, because the joy of it is that you get to decide. So who would you say?
Thanks a lot.
I'm not going to put you on the spot. You don't have to answer. But that is what I believe. Like to every single one of you, I think the answer to that question is in your hands. So
I like her hands too.
great. Good.
Nice. Yes. But it's lovely that everybody can feel a certain way about each of the characters, and it's theirs, and it's their choice, and I love that, you know? It's really nice.
Thank you.
Gentlemen.
Hello.
One thing I love about this romance option, among many things, is how it can recontextualize the entire relationship. You go back and you look for clues. Some people might not catch things, so it feels out of the blue. Other people might see things or project things and connect to it. There's a saying in the hashtag Hansry, a sub-fandom here, that Henry fell first, Hans fell harder. This is in the context of the romance. I am a truther. I think Hans fell first, but I'm wondering if the two of you had thoughts about when the relationship shifts. Obviously, it's player choice. There are these moments, milestone moments, where you choose that and it diverges and branches. But in terms of how it informed your performance and the line readings, I'm wondering when that shift happened for you as performers to start imbuing that, that relationship, that shade to the relationship. Like what stage of the game or what particular mission or quest? I'd love to know that. Thanks.
I think it's important to remember that for every outcome and every decision that you can make within a set of dialogue, that you kind of do it adjacently. So if there is the choice to be more intimate with Hans, we will record a whole subset of dialogue there that is a little bit more intimate and suggestive of that choice of relationship. And then on the other side, something maybe a little bit more cold or a bit more matter of fact, a bit more bro-y maybe. But so it's not necessarily that there was a given moment where I, throughout the process of playing Hans, was like, right, here I'm going to try this. I was always given that option, and that's what, yeah, we keep coming back to, which is it's about you. It's about you. I wouldn't say I imbued it because it was always kind of there. But having said that, I would say that the turning point in the story chronologically is after the Bell Tolls quest, which is obviously I'm spoiling it. I'm sorry, but a near-death experience for Hans, and I think he reevaluated a lot of things in that time, in that, you know, having spent all that time in that cell and knowing that he might die, and, you know, being saved by this guy, it must have changed something in it. And the relationship that they had from that point on must have been different, and I think it was. So that's what I would say there.
I think also there's a degree of ambiguity throughout all the romances and all the relationships that aren't sexual, you know. That is, I guess, a bit like life, where you go, there's kind of blurred lines in that. So for me, yeah, there's definitely no like anchor moment where you're like, that's where the tide changed. And I think that's true of all of Henry's relationships. You know, as I say, with all of the other amazing characters, that there has to be this level of ambiguity and depth and complexity, because that's how real people behave and think and feel. And so that's how he has to as well. So.
Jesus Christ be praised.
Jesus Christ be praised.
Okay, so when I play Kingdom Come, I'm usually a goody two-shoes. I try to help every person in need. When my girlfriend plays Kingdom Come, she robs and thieves every single person and nobleman that comes across her. So my question is to you, when you play Kingdom Come, what kind of a person does Henry become?
It's hard to, so I haven't got very far through yet, I'm only a few hours in, but so early doors, it's, you know, it's hard to deviate from like, you know, stoic noble Henry that exists from the first game. In terms of the one I enjoyed playing the most, and there are kind of many iterations of that and many answers, but definitely when we got into those darker corners of the character and the kind of version of Henry that didn't really exist in the first game, that was always my most fun to play, partly because it was unexpected, as I was saying earlier, and when they gave me that outline of who he could be in that respect, I loved that as an actor. I was like, everyone wants to play the villain, everyone wants to go into those dark, dirty, ugly corners that they don't really generally show of themselves. So I don't know necessarily that I will play him that way. but I certainly enjoyed performing him that way the most because it was kind of unusual and unexpected. But having said that, there's always that bit of me that loves to kind of default back to like noble-centered Henry that will do the right thing, because that is, to a great extent, the core of who he is.
I have actually not played this game on my own. I have always had a few thousand people watching me do it, which definitely has informed the way I play it, because sometimes, you know, I'm reading chat and they're chatting away and asking questions and I've missed a bit of the story. And then I'm like, chat, can you tell me what I do here? Because I don't know what to do. So often, actually, we're playing it together and they're helping me with the choices. So whatever I end up doing, it's like a community-based thing and they're informing it, which I really like. But I think usually I'm making whatever choice I can to just get through it. because I really struggle sometimes with certain quests. So if I have to play him naughty, I will play him naughty, and if I have to play him nice, I'll play him nice. But whatever I feel I can do. Anything to avoid Farkle as well. Not a fan of that.
Thank you. Autentis fortuna juvat.
Autentis fortuna juvat.
We have time for one last question, and then we have to let the other panel come in, so go ahead.
Hi, guys. It's not a question, it's a riddle. I have a spirit, but no soul. I can consume and make you whole. I bring the pain or bring relief, and often lead to joy or grief. What am I?
Ooh,
oh my God.
I have no idea.
Do you want to hit?
After the first line, I thought it might be some sort of alcohol, but after that, I absolutely get... Am I right?
Yeah.
Am I Saviour Schnapps?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Wow, okay.
What a great way to end this.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, so let's save it here.
Amazing.
Thank you all so much for coming, guys. You're all awesome people.
Can we get a picture together, everybody? Can we get a picture together with everybody?